Hello, and welcome back to the journey through Sword of Moonlight games. Last time we beat some games we left unfinished in the first video, and finally played some developed with the translated engine. I think it also showed that, despite the engine's faults, it has the potential to make something quite good. Is this video going to be just as exciting? Well, maybe not. So, going through these games chronologically has caused some unintended effects. One of those is that most of the unfinished games are kind of bunched together. Past this video, they're almost completely gone, but that does mean this video is going to have a bunch of them. I'll try my best to still make this interesting, but not every game we talk about in this video is going to have much to say about it. But hey, let's not get discouraged. Sometimes unfinished games have something really interesting about them. It's fun to see what the creator was going for or what ideas they had. Besides, there are finished games to talk about in this video, and at the very least, they are a bit more interesting. Also, while actual knowledge of the Kingsfield series isn't required to enjoy this video, some familiarity with Kingsfield 2 might help. With that said, let's get into it, as we look at more Som games. Alright then, we start ourselves off this time with our first unfinished game, Before Melanaut by developer Kilroy FX. There's both a lot and very little to say about this one. No real story as far as I can tell, but you start off by spawning in a room. It looks like running is set as the default speed, maybe making this the fastest Som game I've ever played, and the dev made an effort to change up the menus a bit, which is nice. If you examine the barrel in front of you, you get pages and pages of Kingsfield info, characters, enemies, a whole bunch of things. I guess if we consider the title mentioning Melanaut, the setting of Kingsfield 2, this was maybe supposed to be a prequel to it, so I guess this makes some sense. After you're done reading, you can go up some stairs, kill this guy, and then use the telescope. Looking through it, you can see stars, nebulas, and galaxies. There's a room with a big clock ticking away, there's an old woman you can talk to, and then you might find yourself getting tired and going to bed. This leads you to one of several dream sequences. I'm not sure they actually do anything, but it's rare to see the Som engine used for something so visual like this. They look really cool and really caught me off guard. Well, I guess the only thing left to do is go out through this door and... Whoa, I'm in the modern day? I think? At least a more modern time with street lamps. There's not much to see or do here as far as I could tell, but I wander around and eventually find this white area filled with statues. It's really cool to see the Som engine used for such varied environments, and I was getting really interested, but apparently that's all there is to see. I wasn't able to find anything else, and when I asked others, they said that was it. So, not a lot of gameplay to talk about, but on a presentation level, Before Melanaut is rather impressive. I don't recall seeing an in-game cutscene quite like these dream sequences before, and it was pretty cool. I also thought it was interesting to have different feeling areas not typical for the engine. With the dreamy aspect, I wonder if this was supposed to be a bit like Yume Nikki, or maybe LSD Dream Emulator? Who knows. I may not have a lot to say about Before Melanaut, but it certainly left a good impression, and I would have really liked to see what the finished version of this game looked like. It may have only had about 10 to 20 minutes of content, but they were a memorable 10 to 20 minutes. Following an attempted prequel of the Kingsfield series is an attempted sequel. Seaguard by developer Asus X2 was originally planned as Kingsfield 5. What we have to play is a demo of its initial area. Given that, there's not a lot to actually do or see in Seaguard, but to the dev's credit, I think they do a pretty good job. It's pretty neat to see a coastal town as our starting zone, a bit of a change of pace from the norm. We could take a combat test to get a key to leave town, give a cross to this guy so he can attend this funeral at the church, and then he opens up his shop to us. Despite its size, Seaguard does have one or two little quest lines. I think the most interesting thing though is that we can find a shrine containing the Moonlight sword. Placed by Prince Forrester, connecting this to the original trilogy, it's described as the Suffering Sword, and when we equip it, it drains our health. A neat concept for some kind of plotline. Besides that though, I'm not seeing much else to really do. There's some areas to look around and a rock to blow up with gunpowder, as well as a big golem to fight, but I don't think there's much outside of this. I tried to kill the golem to see if it dropped a key or something, but it just wasn't dying. Looking at the Sword of Moonlight forum posts about the game though, I was able to learn the dev made their own music, so I'll give them credit for that. Once again, I find myself without a lot to say about it, but for what it's worth, Seaguard wasn't half bad. Perhaps the full-blown Kingsfield 5 was a bit too ambitious for this dev, but from what I've seen, I wouldn't be surprised if they could make something decent. Oh well, maybe someone else will make Kingsfield 5. Or, perhaps, we should go the other direction. Not a sequel to any of the Kingsfield games, but How about a prequel? Before Melanaut looked like it was going to be some kind of prequel to Kane's Field 2, and maybe that's a good idea. I mean, without all the weird dream stuff and modern day settings that, now that I think about it, I have no idea how that's supposed to fit in. Putting the speculation aside, let's talk about our first finished game at this video. It's something with a bit more content than the others. Introducing Kane's Field Dark Destiny, or just Dark Destiny for short, a prequel to Kane's Field 2. Made by developer DMP Design, this was actually one of the games I'd see recommended for people to play when starting out with the engine. You may find this hard to believe, but the sort of Moonlight community typically don't suggest starting off with unfinished, untranslated projects only weirdos care about. Anyways, if you don't recall, or just never played it to begin with, the plot of Kane's Field 2 involved a guy named Necron stealing the Moonlight sword from John Alfred Forrester with the help of the dragon Gyra. This results in you, the player, journeying to the island of Melanaut to get it back. And so, in Dark Destiny, you play as Ashmere Dias McGill. You were once a skilled fighter under John Forrester, but after a challenge for the Moonlight Sword goes wrong, you are labeled a traitor, and a voice guides you to Melanaut. There, you find a shrine, and the voice calls to you again. It offers you the power to get your revenge so long as you reclaim the Moonlight Sword. The dragon Gyra bestows you with the new name of Necron, and you fulfill your dark destiny as the villain of Kane's Field 2. So yeah, we play as Necron. We even get his cool circular blade thing that grows stronger as the game progresses, so you can keep using it. Nice touch. And of course, we're on the island of Melanaut. Dark Destiny's map is a sort of remake of the map from Kane's Field 2. It's not an exact copy, but if you play Kane's Field 2, you'll recognize some of the areas and be able to navigate a little bit better. Still, the developer included some original areas too, and they're pretty good. Actually, that just about sums up my thoughts on Dark Destiny. Dark Destiny is like Kane's Field 2, but with some original touches thrown in, and they're pretty good. The game doesn't have any big changes to the formula or weird design choices, but let's not undermine Dark Destiny. It does a lot right. For starters, the game is pretty balanced when it comes to combat. If you regularly kill enemies, level up and get new equipment, it's a reasonable and manageable challenge. It's got a good blend of combat areas with some light puzzle solving and secret finding. It's got more of a narrative than most Song games do. It even tries to provide some varied environments while keeping with the geography of Melanaut. On that note, Dark Destiny has towns, as in more than one even. It's dawned on me how uncommon that's actually been in these games. The only other one I could think of with real town areas was Neo Under, which was also a remake of Kane's Field 2. And I guess NeverQuest? You can talk to NPCs, buy stuff, and even complete some side quests. The game's got a whole side quest board. It's not too extensive, and you can't track them, which is a bit annoying, but it's still quite nice. I even completed a quest for this guy here, and Diadem of Monstrat really doesn't want to leave me alone. But on the topic of towns, multiple areas, and side quests, I've got to address some negatives. Dark Destiny has fast travel, and like Kane's Field 2, you can pick which of these pedestals you want to warp to by placing the key in one, finding the warp item, and bam! I mean, you need to go back to the storage area and talk to some people to get it, unlike me who went a good while without, but if you aren't an idiot, you can fast travel before too long. The problem is, unless I'm mistaken, there's only the one fast travel item. You do get something that can warp you back to Gyra's shrine, but for the warp points you can set, I only ever found the one. Even putting it in a convenient area meant I still had to do a lot of walking around, that some extra fast travel items might have helped. I also found myself walking around an extra bit because the pathway I needed to take, or thing I was looking for, was behind a fake wall. Now, in all fairness, fake walls are a staple of this kind of game, and the mandatory ones are pretty telegraphed. I was honestly just not paying attention, but it was part of my experience that got on my nerves. My advice for others is just to keep an eye out. Even then, I actually missed some things in my playthrough. For example, I beat the entire game without finding any of these cool weapons these FMVs are for. But in terms of my personal experience and problems with the game, that is the one thing I should bring up, the FMVs. So yeah, Dark Destiny actually has FMV cutscenes. I think it's the first Song game I've seen with them. But they weren't working for me initially. If you just grab a version of Dark Destiny, for whatever computer compatibility reason, they might be broken. As of writing, the community launcher does have a button to help install a fix, and then it worked no problem, but I do think it's worth mentioning if you feel like playing it. For the record, the game otherwise seems to still work perfectly fine, it just skips the FMVs, but it did mean I was confused when I beat the game, and the FMV that was supposed to play didn't, and the game just seemed to close for no reason. It's a bit funny actually. It's a real shame because I think the FMVs are pretty cool. They got that classic retro feel to them. Actually, Dark Destiny in general is pretty impressive compared to other Psalm games. It plays around with 3D assets a bit, and I find it quite charming. I also liked how they tried to really expand on the narrative and lore surrounding the original Kingsfield 2. I don't know if there are many people who care about the lore of Kingsfield of all things, but DMP Design's story editions felt pretty neat. There were hints about Necron's character in the original game, and it was cool seeing NPCs react to his descent into darkness. Dialogue changes as some people become more afraid of you as the game goes on. Presentation-wise, I think some of the environments look pretty nice for the engine, and the music is well done too. According to the dev, a lot of the tracks were actually free samples taken from some site, but a couple were actually done by Tom Ebersole of Diadem and Trismegistus. My overall favorite thing though might actually be the secret I found. The dev included this library or museum of sorts where you can view all the models of the enemies you beat and items you collect. I love this sort of thing. In summary, Dark Destiny feels like I'm playing an actual Kingsfield fan game. It's not trying to reinvent itself, but just be more of what people like. In some ways that makes it better than basically all the sort of Moonlight games I've played so far. What else are you looking for from this engine if not more Kingsfield? Though, I guess in all fairness, I can't really say Dark Destiny is as interesting or original as other games. Dark Destiny is like a well-done straight punch about a bunch of failed hooks, uppercuts, and one guy who actually landed a really cool spin kick. That might sound like a backhanded compliment, but I mean it in the best way. It may not be fancy in its design, but its actual competence outshines the others. Its more freeform, go wherever you want format is neat, even if it's recycling a lot from KF2. While I think it's down to preference what's better between it and Trismegistus, in terms of non-puzzle games, this is maybe the best Psalm game I've played so far. What can I say, I still do like Angel Tower a little bit. I now understand why I've heard it's a good starting point if you're trying out games in the engine, and I honestly can't disagree. It's more Kingsfield 2, and if you're interested in such a niche engine like this and the games made in it, more Kingsfield 2 probably sounds like a dream come true. With that out of the way, and making our way back to the realms of the unfinished, we've got Fallen by the Way by developer Madison Lastrega. Now, I'll be honest, I'm not fully clear on the details surrounding this game and its developer, but I'll try my best. From what I understand, Madison Lastrega was a sort of Moonlight dev working on like 3 personal projects at once: Fallen by the Way, SQS Ultra, and Mytrosia. None of these would be completed, none of these would even have an official demo, and all I've really got for Mytrosia is a title screen. So then, what the heck am I playing? Apparently it's a bunch of rough game files, not so much a publicly released demo. I don't know, I'm just repeating the info I was told. At least we do have something to show, and I guess some of the ideas and assets from SQS Ultra and Mytrosia might be in this version of Fallen by the Way? Whatever, let's just judge what we have. Apparently, the game's plot revolved around an evil queen in the land of Nevesius. You're a sailor betrayed by their captain who wakes up in the town of Bacanus, and whoa, check out this bar. Look at all these cool assets, and this sign. This might actually be one of the best looking interiors for a building I've seen in this engine yet. Do all the other buildings look like this? No, they're basically all just empty. There is a rough version of a lighthouse though, with a keeper who doesn't let us in and who hates the queen. After exploring this rather bare town, I find some caves. There's some giant snakes that don't seem to die, a non-hostile termite who also doesn't die, and eventually I come out across the river of the first area. There's a rather nice church here, a pedestal, and a barren wasteland or something. I guess this is the end of what I have. Well, Fallen by the Way, you're certainly rough on many of your edges, and you're not exactly the best unfinished sort of Moonlight game, but you do have the best bar, so you get a gold star for that. Alright then, we're nearing the end of the video with just one more unfinished game and then a final complete one to leave us off on a good note. What's next? Well, according to the docket, we've got Wicklow, developed by Johnny Park 66. Wait a minute, we actually have an earlier version of it. I guess before it was called Wicklow, the project's name was Kayef? Wait, is this like the Kayef game Tom Ebersole was working on for a bit? Well, for my best guess, I don't think so, considering Diadem seems to have been finished before this game's first demo even came out. It just doesn't seem to match on the timeline. Kayef is just the initials of Kingsfield said aloud, so I think this is just a project with the same name. Well, anyways, we start with Kayef, and there's apparently a messenger or something waiting to take us somewhere. No inventory or even weapons yet, but I talk to the messenger, he says he's going to take me somewhere, and whoa, did I just die and go to heaven during our travels? Nothing's happening, and I can't seem to do anything, so I guess I'll reload? Instead of talking to the messenger, I go outside and, oh well, look at this. This is actually a nice little town area. There's not much to do, but just aesthetically and design-wise, this is kinda nice. Aside from this town and the castle interior though, there doesn't appear to be anything more to the game. Well, it is an early build, so let's move over to Wicklow proper and see what became of it. We start a new game, and we're in the town. It's slightly different, but if I put up KF footage here without telling anyone, it'd take a while for you to notice. I'll be able to find some powerful gear in this version, and when I talk to the messenger, he doesn't send me to the sky. Instead, he tells me that a disease is ravaging the country, caused by the spell of a mountain hermit, and I'm tasked with dealing with said hermit and stopping the spell. I'm able to leave the castle town now, and there's really not much to see or do. There's some empty fields, some empty caves, a coastline which is kinda cool. That's just about it. I'm not even seeing a single enemy. Wicklow is just empty unless I manage to walk past the enemy-filled cave I'm supposed to find. That's honestly a little disappointing, and I was hoping Wicklow would have gotten further along, but at least it still has a nice little town. I guess that's just the nature of unfinished games. Still, I think I was able to find something to like about each of them. And hey, I made sure to say something good to end the video on. Oh boy, are you guys in for a surprise. Introducing Hearts Collide by Japanese developer Usual Dark, a sci-fi sort of Moonlight detective game. At this time, the game doesn't have an English patch, so mind my roughly translated plot synopsis. You play as True Carmichael, crisis management at Hephaestus Aerospace. You're sent on an emergency trip to Space Station Haas 2 after something went wrong. When you arrive, you learn an optical memory chip containing important data was stolen from the station's management system Hades, with only 5 other crew members on board. It's up to you to figure out who did it and... Wait, wasn't there only supposed to be 5 crew members? Who's that mysterious girl you passed by? Well, never mind that, because look at this. Look at this game. We're in space. This is a space station. Look at all the original assets the dev made, and look at the completely different style of game they used the engine to develop. The game is primarily walking around, talking, and using your detective skills to solve the case. The sheer creativity and originality on display is off the charts for this engine. Now, on a more critical level, I can't actually say if the writing is any good. I'm using my phone to translate all the text for me, but for all I know, the dialogue could technically be very poor. But I'd say this easily has more story than any Psalm game by this point, and I greatly appreciate that. But you know what this game also has? A manual. It has character descriptions, info on how to play, and steps to get the hidden true ending, and they're really easy to follow, and I had no trouble using these steps to get said true ending. Well, that's just really nice of the dev. And you know what? The true ending was pretty fun. The game has a lot of small touches that just make it a nice experience. It gives you an easy to read map to navigate the station. At some points it asks if you just want to teleport to where you need to go. Before certain events, the game even offers you the chance to save in case you haven't for a while. There is not a lot I could actually show or talk about with Hearts Collide without spoiling it. It's a rather short game, but trust me, this is a good one. I don't know if it's in contention for best song game, but it at least gets a nod of recognition. It's definitely up there. Usual Dark did something completely original for the engine, and I think they should be commended for it. It's funny how this is lined up with Tris McGistis in the last video, but I think it's a cool unintended parallel. It goes to show that sometimes a little creativity can have even a clunky engine like sort of Moonlight put out something interesting. Hearts Collide may not be the biggest song game or the brightest, but it does feel like a little hidden gem for the engine. It's also not too long, so if you don't mind translating all the text, you might just be able to have fun with it, even if you can't read Japanese. And so, once again, we reached the end of a video. For some trivia, this is the last part where originally planned to be one long video, but once I saw how lengthy it was getting, I decided to split it for digestibility. I don't know if all the unfinished games made this one a bit less interesting, but at least it gets them out of the way. Going forward, it's almost all completed works. Actually, let's look at what we have coming up next and... Oh, I see. Looks like next video is going to be a little bit special, isn't it? Remember how I said going chronologically produced some unintended accidents? Well, join me next time on our journey through Sword of Moonlight games and see a really funny consequence of all that.